Five, four, three, two, one. All right. I want to say welcome to another live episode, Ballhead and the Dread. Far Eye. What are you saying?
Yeah, blessings, different location.
Seriously, Far Eye is in Jamaica again. So you know how the vibe set. We have a special show with some special guests. We have Shura Watson, Dana Harris, and Akil Parker, all expert mathematicians here, genius level mathematicians, and we're looking forward to the reasoning. Far right, I think we should get right into it, right? And the first topic I want to cover is there's a lot of criticism of youth of today, right? And I just want to hear what you guys have to say because a legendary coach from Virginia actually told me this. We were discussing kids, and he said that the issue is not kids have not changed. The thing that has changed is parents, right? And since you are educators that have been on the battleground for a long time, and some of you are still there, do you think that the criticisms towards modern day kids is just, or should we be talking about modern day parenting? Whoever wants to go first, feel free, you know?
Ladies first.
Oh, put me on the spot, but
Oh,
okay.
I can go. It's fine. I mean, I just want to give you the opportunity.
Now you go. Go ahead.
I think a good quote comes to mind that says, "There's no such thing as bad kids. It's only bad teachers." And when I saw this quote, everybody in the room was like, "Wait, what do you mean?" And the guy he clarified by saying, "Teachers, as far as the parents and the adults that are raising these kids." And so I think that children become a product of their environment and they adapt to the standard that's put before them, starting with their parents and the adults that's raising them.
Mr. Parker.
Yeah, so along the same lines, I definitely think that a child is not a finished product. The child is, I mean, their frontal lobe is not even developed yet. You know, that's not to excuse bad behavior, but then we're responsible for creating what is it, like guardrails, like for the children and like programming. And I think a lot of times it's often interesting to me, the same adults that will complain about the children's behavior. A lot of these adults would, like myself, they had the benefit and the privilege of going to certain programs when they were children, when they were teenagers, and those programs really provided structure, and it really provided like kind of like a blueprint for like behavior and how they should behave. But then you look now and like a lot of those programs aren't available, or you have programs that are available, but they pale in comparison to like the type of programs that might have been available in the past. And those adults that can make those complaints, it really was their responsibility to take the baton and run those programs and create those programs. Those, even if it's like a basketball league or a baseball league, or this after school program and that after school program, like, and a lot of times that doesn't happen. And then people kind of just sit back and say, like, see, these kids, as if they themselves would not have been the same way had in the absence of those types of programs. So it's always interesting to me when I hear like adults saying these types of things, about children. You know what I mean?
Shura.
I do talk just to piggyback off of what Akil's saying. There are some programs that do exist, and I think the parents are just not informed enough, and they should be more informed because the information is getting out to them, and that's what I think is missing. Because there's things out there to help their children. They're just not there to tell them, bring them to it. Sometimes you got one or two parents showing up, and it also depends on the community you're in. And we know that some parents are different based on where you live, based on your your economic standard, everything, right? So all that's playing a part with the parents, and the less information they know is the less they tell their child.
No, facts. And I want to jump back to what Akil said. You made a great point, right? And when I noticed that with these programs, I think like capitalism destroyed programs and coaching, because when I was younger, all these programs were just like you just went and adults were there. They weren't charging the parents. I don't know if it's a mixture of voluntary work and they were being compensated from somewhere else. But I noticed like every single interaction with a child now comes with a fee.
Mm.
And I think like that's the biggest difference between this generation and previous generations. Like I'm privileged. I played basketball, so I received the things you spoke about in regards to coaching, atmosphere, accountability. But Coach Brandon, respect to Coach Brandon, right? This man was with us every evening, like every evening, every evening. The
Mm.
gym was open and he was there. So you figure consistently how many days I just was taken out of a certain environment and put in the gym working because this man was there. And I think like everything now, I see this work. I'm using sports as a context, but everything I see now is like if you're gonna be in the atmosphere, your parents have to pay for it. And I think collectively we just lost that type of vibe, that type of I don't know the proper term for it. I don't know if it's type of a counselor vibe or a bigger brother vibe, but people not putting in no time unless it's a dollar sign attached to it. I'm not
That's
sure if you
true.
guys are exposed to that.
I mean,
Yeah.
even down to working, it's about paying their bills. People just like, yo, I'm pulling up, I got bills to pay. So that's happening for sure. And they not offering any funding to these neighborhoods that need it. So you're just not going to get these programs. It's hard to build certain programs. We don't have extracurricular that the kids can pull up to like they used to. Summer camps are not the same. After school, it's not the same. They just kind of just there doing homework, so-called homework. It's nothing the same without the funding.
I agree. I think that it makes me think about, growing up in East Oakland every day, especially during the summer. Like we were at Rainbow Rec, and Rainbow Rec was off Seminary, and people, not the greatest area, but at the same time, it was Mr. Horace. He was always there. They fed us lunch, things like that. And so now the kids, if they don't have places to go, then what happens? They end up getting in trouble. And I think also parents have to encourage kids to get out as well too, because this generation of kids, if I could sit, like they're living in the metaverse. You know what I'm saying? Like so
Mm-hmm.
so if I all my socializing is right here at the crib, on the game, on the phone. I don't need to go anywhere. So I think those
True.
kind of things affect it too.
That's true.
Yeah, that creates like a Lord of the Flies type situation because you got the kids just like a lot of times not even just interacting with other kids.
That
You know,
Yeah, you
they don't
can't even
get.
get them to do group work. They don't
Yeah.
talk to each other. They will not talk to each other. They're like, nah, I'm good. I'm like, what? No. The assignment's to talk. They're like, nah, I'm good. So they have
No,
to.
Speaking, you mentioned something important a while ago. Like that was the question I wanted to ask. Like when it comes to the interaction of children, do we see a form of awkwardness when it comes to interacting amongst their peers, especially when it comes to doing progressive activities, so to speak?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm currently teaching geometry, and my students will sit and say, I don't know. And they'll just stare at each other. And it was like, I don't know. You know what to do? No, I don't know what to do. There's no critical thinking. They're not processing what's on the paper. They're not reading what's on the paper. Some of them can't read what's on the paper. It's a strong difficulty having them just talk to each other about anything educational. They're like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah,
yeah,
I see a lot of times where they do the same thing. And interestingly enough, some of them will. And my team of teachers, like we're at the point in the school year, we're like we start moving the desk around to where it's like, okay, this group over here, they gonna do work, and we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
teach them. Those over there, they kind of like in the middle. They today they might pay attention, tomorrow they might not care. This group over here, I done wrote them off. And although they're in the classroom, it's not necessarily wrote them off in a negative way, so to speak. It's I've communicated with the parents at home. I've given them opportunity after opportunity to join in and be a part of the class and do the work and things like that. But this group over here that's been written off, they want to do their own thing. And it's unfortunate because that affects the other ones. But as far as information to like communicating like that, it really is like pulling teeth to get them to have those healthy conversations about the assignment at hand.
And you guys brought up two great points. One, in regards to the lack of social skills with this generation, and I believe that's a direct effect of the technology because they really struggle interacting with each other. Like that's what people don't understand. And you guys are in education, and majority of the interaction is through a device. It's not necessarily through a human.
Yep.
You know, so it's not even a situation where they struggle talking to adults. They struggle talking to each other. Because I used to tell this joke all the time. I'll never forget this kid. He was like sitting right there, right? So he was serious and he was typing, right? And the man shook his head and said, "That's not even funny." But then he sent a laugh out loud on the phone, right? So I was telling him now, I said, "Fire, this can't work because what you're doing now is that person needs to learn that joke is not funny." You get what I'm saying? For human interaction. But if you were there in person, you can tell by the person's face, like, all right, what I said is not funny, so maybe I need to tweak it, or I shouldn't say that joke. They don't have enough repetition of interacting with people, and that's why they struggle so much. I've seen kids text each other that are sitting next to each other.
Yes. So
you peep that too.
They do it.
Yeah, it was an open gym. They were waiting for the door to open, right? And they were there. They were literally texting. I never seen that like this.
I think they feel safe. They feel safe behind that screen. They feel they just can. It's so easy to send an emoji, a GIF, anything like a meme, something. Set the things are doing it for them. They can voice. They can talk. They don't have to do anything themselves. They don't really have to do much thinking.
And
safe.
Dana, you brought up a next point. I just want everyone to chime in on this point, but I believe this is I know we're kind of jumping the gun, but you brought it up. You brought up a great point. You was talking about the point of just accepting that fire, like writing some students off. And I think one of the biggest problems in education is the save all concept. We have a save all concept in education, but it doesn't relate to save all concept in society. And I think a lot of kids' education is stripped or borderline destroyed because they have this idea of saving all the students. And I think I just wanted you to touch on if you experienced that and what are your thoughts about that?
So growing up, I was in the top classes, as they say. They had separated us, right? If you could perform a certain way, you were in that top class, and then it kept going down based on levels. I actually missed that. I have students with major behavior problems, learning disabilities. They're extremely behind. They're not on a 10th grade level. So they shouldn't really be in geometry class. And it brings down the students who can perform on level or close to level. It's not, I believe they need to separate them. Like, you need to go back and teach kids at their level and fill in the gaps for them and allow them to reach these different heights in that area. It is good when kids are differentiated and you can work together, but at this point, there's some class that kids can't help each other. They're struggling. We need them. They need to be taught again, and they're not being taught. So it needs to come back. I miss that. We need the tears.
I think it plays an important role as well, because you're still gonna have the opportunity for differentiation, even if they are, grouped in tiers. I'm similar to you, Shu. I graduated top 15 percentile of my class. Outside of school, I had a diverse group of friends and things like that, but my homies knew, like, when Dane go in that classroom, he about his business. Like, we can shoot the breeze outside, but nah, he going in there to handle business. And I think that sometimes the top tier kids, they don't want to talk and don't want to speak out a whole lot because they get tired of the kids that are bullies and things like that. And really, these kids are acting out simply because their deficiencies academically. And so that now these kids don't want to be made fun of and things like that, because all of the kids that are, intelligence looks different on different kids. Some kids are intelligent and they can speak eloquently and they can do the work and they got the look, they got the swag, the clothes, and all of that. But then there's another group of kids, they the cool kids. But then there's another group of kids who are intelligent kids, but they may not be growing up in a home to where they are one of the cool kids. They're one of the they're into different things nowadays. They're into anime and stuff like that. and I don't want to say I see nerd is a term of endearment to me. I
That's
got
what
a shirt that say nerd gang versus, I think we all similar in age. Back in the day, nerds was talked about and things like that, and media did not do a good job of displaying what nerds look like. You know what I'm saying? But now with this new era, nerds can look anyway. So I say all that to say many kids, they're kind of skeptical to speak out in class and things like that. If you're good enough of a teacher to build a relationship with them to where they will start talking and things like that, or after class they'll come talk to you and say, hey, Mr. Harris, I was wondering about this and this and this, then those things are helpful. But I got a few little babies in my class, they still like, hey man, shut up, it's time to work.
that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that Dana brought up is something that, like, before we got into this question, when he kind of like stratified his classroom, that's something that I really wish I had done much earlier in my career. Because a lot of times, like, the kids will tell you, they'll be like, yo, Mr. Parker, like, just teach us, like, stop worrying about them. They don't care. They don't want to learn. They don't want to learn anyway. So my natural reaction when I hear that is like nah, like, I'm really trying, because I'm also like thinking long term. I'm like, bro, I know how this movie ends. like you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I like, I see some of these kids, they grown men now, and I kind of seen how their lives have kind of progressed and like what type of situations they've gotten into, and it was like, I didn't want to be right, but but we have to, you gotta kind of, let people go. You can't, everybody can't go. Everybody can't go. And I've actually, along those lines, I've often been thinking about another thing that I did, reflecting on like my classroom, because like I was in the traditional classroom setting until like 2018. Since 2018, I've been like adjunct in, teaching in night schools, different programs, doing a whole lot of tutoring, teaching online classes. But another thing is like, man, this kind of idea of, how we try to force math on people. And I always think about like how I'm like, damn, bro, like if I'm doing that, like I'm kind of devaluing math, because like we know the value of math, right? We know what it can bring you, how it can train you, how it can help you develop your critical thinking, analytical reasoning, problem solving skills. Even if it's like on a money aspect, like the type of careers you can qualify for if you go to college and do a STEM major, right? So it's like just the idea of trying to fight. It's almost like we trying to fight with kids to listen. I'm trying to give you this bag of money. Take this bag of money, and they fighting with you like, nah, I don't want it. Get out of here. I don't want that money. I don't want this. I want that bag with 300,000 in it. I'm cool. And when you think about it like that, it's like we really be trying to force certain people to learn math. And I'm trying to figure out like the balance between, still to this day, like trying to figure out the balance between not forcing math on people where it kind of devalues it, right? It kind of let people, because we kind of at the same time, we got to let people know like this is something exclusive, right? This might not be for everybody. And especially if you act like you don't want it, like why would I try to force it on you, but at the same time, kind of identifying those students that if they just got a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of urging, maybe they could wake up and understand. So I'm still grappling with that, but that's something that I never, like early in my career, I never thought about, like, yo, like why am I fighting with you to give you this skill and teach you this skill when you don't want it? I know the value of it. You don't know the value of it. You've been trained and indoctrinated to think that it's not valuable. You're never going to use it in life. It's irrelevant. Your parents probably say the same thing. Your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles say the same thing about it. You've bought into that negative propaganda. So, a lot of people do that. So I'm still working with that, trying to think about the best way to like communicate that idea around mathematics generally too.
I think writing them off to a certain extent it's a little difficult because sometimes they come around based on the topic. Like I have students who struggle in the beginning, so they check out, and then a topic comes up that they could do. So now they join in, but they'll just join in for that topic only. It's like, okay, but you have them for that moment, and they kind of get it, and then you're like, maybe making a breakthrough. But then also parents feel away. I remember just this school year, I said to a parent, your kid is so disrespectful, I don't want to interact with them. And I really don't, because he's that disrespectful. And he's not learning, right? He's one of the problem makers in the class. And the mom was like, how can you give up on my kid so easy? My mind giving up. I've been like trying for months, but your child is resistant to learning. And so I think about the parents who think they don't understand like all the stuff you're going through in the class and why you're not really trying to give up on them, but it's like, yo, yeah, we need intervention here. This one is not really
because what happens is that the others, because it's not individual tutoring. That's the thing. It's like it's 25
right.
people in the room. So if I'm giving that energy to you and you don't even want it, what about like, not to say that the other 24 are going to be like, gung ho about it, but it's a core group that do want it. And the more energy I'm giving to you, fighting with you to try to get you to get it, I could just be focused on those that already want it. Where it don't got to be no fight. It's like we working together. It's almost like a collaborative, atmosphere, like between like the teacher and the students that are already bought in, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Because that's the real consideration, because some people will look at that and say, no, you shouldn't give up on nobody. But listen, if I don't, then I'm hurting the other people.
Yeah.
I'm hurting the majority. No, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm hurting the majority.
Mm-hmm.
I think giving up is not the proper term. I think what happens is, and please correct me, or I'd like you to chime in if you experience this before we move on to the next topic. For some reason, they try to create a culture within a school that's separate from society. And it makes no sense because school's within society.
Yeah.
So I won't say my classroom was cold, but it pretty was. And I let you know the program. You're not going to do the work at school, but you're not going to disturb this class. And we just keep it moving.
Right.
And that was it.
I think one of the issues we have too is that mathematics is mandatory for graduation too. Yeah. So like everybody gotta
true.
go.
And I have to say this too. I have to be cognitive to say this, that I didn't teach math or English, and I know they're under a different type of pressure because you have the state testing and all that type of vibe. So I want to be clear about that. Like I had more leeway for what I was doing. I didn't have anybody breathing down my neck asking for scores and all that because I didn't teach math or English.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have to be careful when I explain my tactics. but nonetheless, right, it is a thing with this teacher. You get sucked in with this trying to save the world, but it's actually the detriment to the rest of the kids because the other kids, their educational experience is being taken away by the disruption.
Yeah.
And they're not getting their repetition. So a kid in one area is getting 35 minutes of instruction every day, compound interest from a math teachers. And your kid is getting 2 minutes, if that. So there's no way they can compete with each other.
Never catch up either.
So we would have to remove the distractions to at least get them up to 20, 25 minutes so they could compete on the level with other kids throughout the country.
Facts.
But the way the schools are set, it's like save all. And it's just like, bro, everyone's not being saved in the world in general. So I don't know why that concept should exist in school. It sounds a waste still. I know people don't want to save, but it's just realistic. And they waste too much time on disruptive forces instead of encouraging and supporting those that are in the middle or your high flyers.
And it's a lot to do. We don't even have enough resources. We don't have the right people coming in to help these kids with all the mental issues that's going on. We don't have enough resources to help with all the remediation that needs to take place in some of the neighborhood schools. It's a lot to handle as an educator in the building, and we don't have the adequate support.
Yeah. And math is so cumulative.
People not beating the door down to get into education. Like,
And when you're in it, they're criticizing you so hard. And you're like, hold on, these kids are not even performing on level. And you're coming for the teacher harder than the student. There's no accountability, but you're coming for the teacher. We got to relax. So, it's a difficult place to be in, a conundrum, as I like to say.
One thing I want everyone to touch on before we move on to the next topic. What do you think parents can do better to better prepare their child for school and to be a functioning asset to society, right? Because what do you think you interact with parents a lot, so I know you know the good, the bad, and the ugly. What can parents do to better support their child's education and hold them more accountable?
They can ask more questions and get more involved. It's not happening. I got a parent the other day in May saying she hasn't seen a report card since September. Ma'am, another teacher said, you received 6 since September. If your child, you got to get more involved as a parent. You got to be way more aware. Talk to the school. Don't wait on someone to call you. Call us. Like, check in on your student. Pop in. Get the information that we have for you. At least that. Start somewhere.
I think, first of all, I'm gonna speak on something that you just said. In most cases, they can check grades live on the internet. So, but I think also parents have to value education more and see education as separate from school. You know, when you're a struggling parent, maybe you're a single parent, right, and you're struggling, and you're your socioeconomic status is not the best. You're looking for opportunities to say, okay, man, now I don't have to pay this daycare and things like that. So some people it's like, oh, okay, whoo, daycare is finally free, things like that. And so now they just looking at it as a place that kids go every day for them to either go to work, uh, and for some of them, you know, they don't even work, but they have to be pushing the idea of the importance of education. Like we gotta, as a parent, you gotta push this idea that you will present yourself as an intelligent human being in this family.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you push that idea, you may not say, hey, okay, you can't bring nothing other than A's and B's in this house, but you gotta push that idea. You gotta teach them, spend time with them, read to them, do learning games with them and things like that. You have to cultivate that in those first 5 years. Because if you don't, when they go to school in year 5, year 6, it's gonna be hard for some person that's never seen them in their life to be able to manage them. You know what I'm saying? And not manage them in a way of control, but hey DJ, all right, it's time to sit down. Hey DJ, pick up your pencils, because there's different things that, you know, kids have to come equipped with, different skills when they start even kindergarten. So they have to push the importance of education, uh, and make sure that it's separate from school. Like, it just got to be cool to be intelligent in that home.
Yeah. I think like parents have to, and again, I understand when I say this, I understand that like the society doesn't like dictate this, or we're not usually socialized in this way to want to really take control and fully dominate the education of our children, because we're conditioned to just outsource it. It's like, you know, let the school handle that. You know, like that's the school's responsibility. It's the math teacher's responsibility to teach you math. It's the English teacher's responsibility to teach you how to write and how to, you know, understand grammar and read books and do and study literature. It's the chemistry teacher's responsibility to teach you chemistry. Whereas, you know, you have, I think we have to have like a paradigm shift where parents are like, yo, like I decide what I want, and parents have to start thinking like, okay, well, what do I want my children to even know? What do I want them to, what skills do I want them to have? What do I want them to be educated to do? You know? And then then the way they'll navigate schools will become very different, because then it's kind of like I'm saying, like with teachers, when teachers have children, we look at it like, yo, like I'm my child's primary educator. If I send them to school, then you're supplementing me. Like you kind of work for me. So when we have so it's a very different conversation on back to school night, very different conversation at report card conferences, because we already have an idea, like this is what I want for my child. A lot of us, like, we're socialized in a certain way too. And that's why I say it's got to be a paradigm shift, because we're, you know, parents are kind of doing what they've been, you know, conditioned to do, what all of us have been conditioned to do to a certain degree, which is just let the school handle that, you know. And a lot of times the schools are like, you know, kind of some schools have this attitude, like, you know, for in terms of parents, especially Black parents, like, y'all are dumb, y'all don't know nothing, just let us send you, make sure your kids come here on time and they're well behaved, and then we you know, we gonna handle everything else. But it just can't be like that, you know. It just can't, you know. I actually want us to be at the point where, you know, school becomes a space for practice, you know, and the home and the community and the neighborhoods are the primary educational like spaces. That's why, like, you know, I talk about like the resources, you know, that I put forth, like the YouTube channel, the book, you know, so parents can like say, you know, create teachable moments just in the house. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, we taking this ride, we going to run these errands. Oh, let's like count for me, like, you know, the difference between this radio station and that radio station, like 103.9, what's the difference between that and 98.9? So you just in the car subtracting decimals, you know, at an early age. And every time you get in the car, you're doing little stuff like that. So then that's building the confidence, that's building the math skills. And, you know, and then you just have a child that's like that. And so then when they go into the classroom and it's like, oh, we're doing that standard, the math teacher is like, oh, we're going to subtract decimals. It's like, oh, I know how to do this. This is light. I do this all the time. You know, whereas most of the time we wait until the child gets to school to do that. And it just doesn't work. You know, well, it does work. It works in terms of making sure our children don't excel. You know, so then things do have to start in the home, and the parents have to be equipped to make sure it starts in the home and it's maintained in the home. Because really, I mean, I would love for, like, because a lot of us as classroom teachers, when you're in the classroom, it's like you know, you're following the curriculum, but you know, it's kind of like parents don't really have a whole lot of input. You know, I would love to be in a situation where it's like, you know, I want to make sure, you know, my child learns this. Like, cool. Like, it's almost like with tutoring. With tutoring, it's like, what we working on? You tell me. Whatever you want your child to know, whatever they need to tighten up on, I got you. You know, so I think like school should be like that. Ideally, school. I don't know if it will be like that.
So, quick question of everybody based off of that. Do we think that's realistic though? That expectation of the average parent, knowing that the average person don't really practice critical thinking or even know how to solve problems within their life. Do we think it's realistic for parents to actually carry out that agenda so their children can be prepared from home? Or is that too far off?
Not without a whole lot of work.
Yeah, so it takes work, but it's realistic. I think we should make it realistic. I think anything we want to do, we should make it happen. Even if anything, right? What was Nelson Mandela? It only seems impossible until it's done, right? No, they could do it. We could make it happen. We have to have the conversation in the home, and we have to value education more. It has to start there. It has to start there so that we get that help when they're in the classroom.
I think that was part of my foundation. The generations before us, they really believe that education, like Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful tool to change the world. I think, you know, our grandparents for sure believe that education really could help us change our lives. I like, even what Akil said, a paradigm shift. You know, that's a mindset change.
Mm-hmm.
And so we as minority people, we got to start figuring out, okay, listen, the system, whatever, you know, because we complain about a lot of different things, but it's like, wait, what is the one thing that we do have that we can come together and unite and bring our people together? And that's our minds.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to start creating spaces to where it is really cool to be sharp in the mind instead of just having converse. Like I heard somebody say, business and BS. You know what I'm saying? It's cool when we, you know, certain spaces we shoot the breeze and this and that, but we gotta create the space as adults to where the kids see adults having intellectual conversations and things like that. And then we also, in order to do that, to make it realistic, we gotta be mindful of how we use these devices to babysit these babies, because it's gonna happen. It's inevitable, but we gotta manage it. You know what I'm saying? It's just like it's games like Minecraft and those things like that. It's educational games and stuff like that out there. It's nursery rhymes and things like that. I look at that girl, Miss Houston, who got that. She's got a YouTube channel now, and she got like trap music beats on her songs, and she's singing the nursery rhymes. It's just the 2024 version, so we can still really put that stuff in the minds of these young people. We have to be intentional, and I think that there's so many parents that are caught up in survival. You got to think like I'm 19 years deep in this education thing, so I got former students who have 3, 4, 5 kids. Some of them are doing well because they were good academic students, but some of them are struggling because they were poor academic students. And if the parent isn't really academically inclined and not necessarily book smart, But if that parent is not academically inclined and being a critical thinker and stuff like that, it's very, very difficult to pass that on to children.
And you guys brought up a great point. Some people don't want to talk about, but it's like the root of the issue, right? Along with education, we need to educate not only the students but their family members and get, I guess, more out into the community in regards to family planning. But
Mm-hmm.
you brought up a great point, because if you're in a position where you don't have a skill set to earn, and when you're trying to earn now, you have this family and you're working two, three jobs, you can't be a parent. It is what it is. You can't be a parent. So we need to educate people in regards to the reality of being an adult and the economics of being an adult, earning potential, how much you need to live in that particular area, and the realities when you don't have a skill to earn, and how that will impact you and a family.
Yeah. And we got
Because
to build up the community, I
yeah,
think, as well, right? Because look at this: there's three mathematicians, black mathematicians here. There's tens of thousands of us. Then we also have other skill sets. I have friends, lawyers, doctors, nurses, they're in political scenes. All these people could talk to students about different things. Engineers, people who work for the subway. Like, we should all be able to talk to one another's children and help them with these parts of life and help them with homework, or even just, hey, how's school going, and uplift them. Is like, people have to build a better relationship with the people around them so the community could come together, because we need it. They kept us apart at one point. Now we have so much knowledge and so much technology. How come we're not putting it all together and creating our own and teaching our own? Like, I try to do that. Like, I made a book so to help my students, right? Put their names in it, make the pictures look like them so they see themselves in the mathematics. You want that to happen, and we have to work together to make that happen too. So building a community and coming out and working together, that's going to be play a vital part with it.
there's another thing I would like all you to touch on, since you guys are experts in this area. Two aspects we spoke about a little bit when we were reasoning with Mr. Parker here, Professor Parker, on I Never Knew TV. What is the key to I guess making sure your child at least starts off at grade level when they get to like kindergarten and first grade? Like, what is the most important thing a parent can do? And also, based on your experience, what can parents do when a child is behind? So how can a parent kind of assist their child that they're on grade level when they start at the foundation? And also, the second part of the question is, if you find out your child is behind, statistically most likely they are, unfortunately, right? What realistic steps can be made to help that child get on grade level?
You gotta practice more than anything. I'm a big advocate of that 1,000 reading hours, man. Um, I was reading to my sons in the womb. You know what I'm saying? I would sit their mom down like, hey, nah, you about to get this story today. You know what I'm saying? Like, so 1,000 reading hours, man. My boys, they ain't know what was going on, man. You just gonna sit right here on Pop's lap. You go get this story, homie. And so the reading hours I think are super important, because even mathematics is really reading comprehension now for the way the curriculums are set up. Let's be
Mm-hmm.
real about that. Is reading comprehension.
A
So I
lot.
think that's one thing. And practice. Your kid can be in middle school and be behind. And if a parent asks me, what can I do to catch my kid up? Have them practice their timetables. Conversation we always have as mathematicians: do kids need to memorize their timetables or not? If kids get better at basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, I promise you, if they practice that over and over again, and they practice reading and understanding, like ask them questions about what they just read. Tell me the story in your own words. Who's the characters in the story? What was the setting? Things like that. What did this word mean? If you do those simple things with your kid over and over and over, like Marshawn Lynch said, you do those things over and over again, your kid is gonna eventually catch up.
Yeah. Um, I say talk, just, Dana saying everything that's great, and talk to your child. Sorry, a plane's flying by. Talk to your child, because we're talking about even before they get into kindergarten. You should be talking to them using language that makes sense. There's no such thing as like baby language, that Google Gaga. What is that? Speak real words to them. Read books to them. talk mathematics to them, do math with them, ask them questions, let them critically think from even at 2 years old, 3 years old. There's a lot of brain genius kids, whiz kids at that age, right? So we should be speaking to our child. And then if your kid happens to fall behind, there's so much you can do. You get additional help. You can work with them at home with flashcards. There's manipulatives. There are resources to help you catch your kid right back up, but you have to be involved. You can't give up, and you have to be patient. I understand it's frustrating to educate your own, but they're yours. They're a product of you. Like, you should want to educate them. So we have to put more work and put the devices down. They need way less screen time. These devices are like the death of our children. Put them down. They don't need it right now.
Yeah, I definitely say practice. Just practice. Practice to the point where they get what I call the mathematical muscle memory. Because that's another thing. Like, when kids will be in class, and sometimes, like, they'll know how to do a problem. Like, a teacher will put a problem up on the board and they'll know how to do it. But your classmate, as a classmate, you might not know that they already learned that, or they already been practicing that. Because once you've seen a problem enough times, just like with teachers, like, we see a problem and, like, okay, this one of them. All right, cool. I'm about to do this, right? But you got to work up to that level, right? And that's there's no shortcut to that. It's just you just got to put the work in. Just like with sports, you just got to put the time in. You got to put the time. You got to put the work in. You got to build up to it. Like, math is very similar in that regard, in terms of how you become good at math. And that's why I always push back when I hear people speaking about the having a math gene, or like, oh, I just, it skipped over me. Like, my brother had it, my sister had it, I didn't get it. Like, nah, like granted, you might have to work a little harder, or study a little more than somebody else, but that doesn't mean you don't have the ability to develop your math skills.
Yeah.
But the practice is key. And I say, like, just do a lot of problems. Like, I tell people, like, keep it 100. Like, do 100 problems. And that don't mean you got to do 100 in one night, but maybe you do 100 over a 5-day period, 20 per day, or 100 over a 10-day period. That's 10 problems per day. Or, maybe do 15 per day over a 7-day period, something like that. But you gotta be intentional, and you gotta be consistent. Just, because it's gonna pay off. It's gonna pay off. Even if it doesn't seem like it's paying off right away, it's definitely gonna pay off. Just not even in terms of grades, but just in terms of, like, self-confidence in your child, and even you as a parent, you're gonna have confidence, because you'll be like, wow, like, I facilitated that. Like, I helped make that happen. Their problem solving ability, their critical thinking ability, their analytical reasoning ability, their ability to, like, just look at the world differently. It won't be as easy for them to be taken advantage of, but yeah, that work's got to be put in, that practice has got to be put in. Also, like, that's why I don't agree with the people that say, we shouldn't give homework, because homework is practice. It's practice, and I think we can have conversations about time management and making sure children have time to play and get fresh air, go outside and get vitamin D and all that, and, when the sun is shining, that's great. But we can, if you're a parent, you can take your child outside in the sun. We can talk about, we can incorporate math lessons while we walking down the street. It's math all around us. And I think that's part of the challenge too. But it's not a difficult challenge, but we can do those things simultaneously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just 2 points I want to bring up before I ask another question. You guys brought up great points, specifically highlighting this reading comprehension. I think that's a big hindrance for people with math, specifically with these word problems, because they struggle reading, right? They can't understand it, so that leads into them not understanding the problem, right? Shura, you spoke about patience from the parents. I hope they heard that, like, being patient with the child.
Yeah.
Question I have before we move on is, like, since you have so much experience with children, what age do you think is a good age for a child to get a cell phone? The cell phone is still locked down still by the parent, but what age do you think, like, it's kind of and I know it differs per child, but what do you think? Like, what's the average age you feel like, this child could be a little responsible with the cell phone if it's locked down and they don't have access to certain things?
I think 12, 13, they need to be up there, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know the age. I think, like, when they start taking public transportation, when they start, like, moving around the city by themselves, I don't know what age that might vary, you know, from one household to another. But yeah. Again, like you mentioned, y'all mentioned earlier, like the screen time, like reducing the screen time. It's too much. Like even for me as an adult, like sometimes I'm on Instagram, I get caught in the scroll, you know. But I'm glad that I still have the presence of mind to realize it. But I think it's because I'm not a digital native, so I worry about children that are digital natives, and that's all they've known. Like since they were babies, they had screens. So I don't know that they know that it's a problem when their like eyes are glued to a screen, and then they feel like they can't put it down. I don't know that they recognize like, wait, something ain't right. Like I feel it. Like I'm like, yo, like I need to get off. I need to get off Facebook real quick. Or I need to get off Instagram, you know. But then I keep saying stuff that that interests me, and I'm like, whoa, Zuckerberg is controlling my life right now. I got to put this down, right?
Yeah.
But I worry that like people don't have that, you know, that filter.
The kids don't. But if they're traveling young, I understand, but you still need to lock off certain things. You have the control. And I think that's the thing. We need to start powering down their cell devices because they have access to too much. And then our kids go down the rabbit hole, and that rabbit hole can get scary, and we don't want them down that hole. So it's like you gotta shut some of this stuff off. We have the power, and we need to use that power that we have. So I just feel like the older they get, they're a little more mature. I don't see why a 5 or 6 or 7-year-old needs a cell phone. I really don't.
Yeah, that's so I'm with Shu about, you know, roughly 12, 13, but I also agree with the kid if they're, you know, if they in the inner city and they got to move around, then that's different. But it's still ways to manage it. You go get a kid an iPhone and you can manage every app that
Yeah.
they go into. Me, I still, my baby boy is a freshman in high school, and I still randomly every now and then be like, hey, let me see your phone. Now my oldest son, his phone is just a little mini TV. Like he don't talk on it like that. Uh, but my baby boy, man, let me see your phone. What's going on up in this thing, man? And his mother still manages his apps. Like sometimes I gotta call his mom, like, hey, man, look, he need a bank app. You know what I'm saying? Like the boy trying to use his bank card from his phone, so I need you to approve that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they gotta understand. I like that term you use too, Akil, a digital native. Like we come from the generation where we didn't have those things, and so kids like, Mr. Harris, when did you get your first phone? I was like, man, I was 19 in college, and it was a green screen. Like, what you talking about?
No, I ain't
I
gonna
Smartphones
hold you.
didn't
I had a
exist.
phone. I
I,
had a
I had the
phone.
Motorola
I had a
Motorola
Spoiled.
pager.
Splendor.
I'm a little spoiled. I had a phone.
I had a pager
Yes.
in high school.
I had it all, but I was still focused. I was top 10. We ain't play. Education mattered. Like,
But that's a but to some extent that's like a you're special. Let's put it that way. You're special. You're a
yeah.
different tier. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, when we think about it, though, I have a question and along that lines, right? Do we think the concept of rewarding bad behavior, whether it be with these technological devices or anything along that lines, rewarding bad behavior is contributing to the lack of what would I put it, the lack of knowledge seeking from children or the lack of attention because they think that they would get whatever they want regardless of maintaining a standard.
At school and at home.
100%. 120%.
It's bad.
Because some of my worst behaving and academic kids be the freshest. I have one young man, because I call them all my little knucklehead nephews and nieces, right? And but one young man, we have a much better relationship now, but it started out terrible. And I'm like, yo, he's skipping all the time. He don't do not no work up in here. He come in here and his objective is to. I remember one of the security officers brought him to class late, and he said, "Man, Harris, I caught him skipping, man." And so the kid was like, "Man, my goal is just to piss you off." Like I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah. I want to do that for all my teachers. I'm just here to piss them off."
Mm-mm.
But I'm talking about one day I was feeling real wild one day. I said, "Hey man, like, what size of J's you got on your feet, man?" And he was like, I don't know if it was my size or it was like right there at my side. I was like, you know what? If it wasn't a shame, man, I see you out there going to the bus, and I had to make you come about them things, man. You don't deserve them, but I think it does contribute. Like it's like, what am I working for? But then that stuff overflows into their life as they graduate, if they graduate. But as they go out into the real world, now there's this sense of entitlement, and they don't truly realize that they gotta work for things. I want this nice whip. I gotta work for it. I want this nice place to live. I gotta work for it. I want this to date this person. I gotta work for it. I want to get some bread. I gotta work for it. So it's gotta be an exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry,
Facts.
Mr. Harris, to interject, but you just spoke about something that's like, fire. This entitlement, and this entitlement distorts their reality.
Mm-hmm.
But they're groomed or they're taught entitlement not only at home but at school.
Yep.
That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually teaching the child to feel they're deserving of things that they never worked for.
Yep.
And when they leave that environment, especially those who taught high school, I know you had this conversation. They come back, say, Mrs. Watson, man, I know it's crazy out here, woman.
Facts.
Because that world smacks them in the face. They're not
Yep.
in school. They can't keep a job, or the job that they have is making nothing, and it
Mm-hmm.
kicks in.
Yep.
And that's one of my biggest concerns with the school parents also. But like, you're teaching this child to fail. You are teaching this child to fail at life by teaching this child to be entitled.
Yeah. It's scary. It's funny because we always talk about the clothes and stuff. I actually asked my students, I said, yo, because they walking in with the drops. I got the new J's, they got the new J's, but I work. I'm wondering how you keep getting the new ones. They walking in.
For
I'm
real.
like, yo. I said to one of my students, I said, let me ask you something. You ask your parents for all these sneakers, or they just give them to you? One kid said, nah, my dad a sneakerhead. He buy me every sneaker. He said, I didn't even want these. I said, okay, interesting. So the parents, I don't know, some of these parents feel bad that they never had these things growing up, or they want these kids to have everything because they just can't say no. Bruh, some of the kids don't even know what they get, and the parents just handing it to them. So yeah, this entitlement is being taught, and then they come to school, no accountability. So just is a revolving circle, revolving door. It just keeps going back and forth with these kids. Same thing, same behaviors. So it's definitely being taught for sure.
Do you find your job a little harder when you don't play that game and you actually hold kids accountable? Are you like the black sheep in the building for actually holding kids accountable and teaching?
In every building,
For doing the most basic thing, just teaching and holding kids accountable, and it's not gonna fly.
I love this question. Yes. Especially being the math educator, first, I always walk in with the kids. They always have, this hate for mathematics, or just this, I don't like the class. I don't know it. They're mad at you. I'm like, I didn't make the curriculum though. I'm just here to help you. So, and then when you try to hold them accountable, yes, because, and I said this the other day to someone, I'm like, yo, the teachers in the building talking like they holding these kids accountable, but they giving out grades. Your so-called curve, you can't have a 40% curve. There's no bell curve in the world that makes sense. There's no standard deviation where that makes sense. And they just giving these kids grades. And then when you're like holding firm, I said, you look bad. You look like the mean teacher. You look like the one who don't care because you holding them accountable. You want them to pass. You want them to learn something. Every time it's just an argument. I'm like, yo, and I tell my students, you're not learning anything. These teachers just giving you grades. You're gonna have a problem when you get out of high school. It's it's a lot of work.
Kids be thinking those are the cool teachers.
Every time. And then they come back later and they like, yo, Miss Watson, you was right.
Come
I'm like,
back, bro. They come back with that.
They always come back. I'm like, yo, I was trying to tell you. So
I got a crazy one for y'all though. In North Carolina, you have to give them a minimum of a 50. You have to. And it's so crazy because along the process before the actual report cards come out, like I'll put a 0 in there. Sometimes I'll leave it blank. I'll put that 0 in there, but then I just put a note and things like that. But when we submit final grades, like, yo, it's a whole issue. You gotta have meetings and things like that. If you didn't put that minimum 50 in there. And then there's certain grades, minimum grades that kids with IEPs and kids that are ML students, things like that. I get it, certain accommodations to be made for certain groups of kids, but that minimum 50, I'm like, bruh, I come from the era that if you earned us 5,
You get a
you gonna
5.
get that 5. And that 5 gonna wake you up, you're gonna be like, oh wait. So yeah, them grades is fugazi. That's
Very
why
skilled.
I've heard so many kids even graduate with 4.0s and be like, that's why I loved teaching juniors and seniors, because they done matured a little bit more and they done learned a few lessons in life. And so they like, I remember talking to some juniors and seniors at times and kids like, yo, I got a 3.5, I got a 3.8, I got a 4.0. So, what kind of stuff do you feel like you've learned in school? Nothing.
Nothing. But you got a 4.0. How? I don't know. Teacher gave me the grade. Oh,
It's paperwork.
Yeah.
wow.
It's
That's
paperwork.
it.
Nah,
You
but come
learn how
on,
to
like
do
you
you learn
get
how to do
kids
paperwork.
in college and they can't even keep up. They really don't know anything. The dropout rate is high. With the freshmen on academic probation their first year of college. Why? And you're taking remedial classes. You're paying someone to do what you got for free in high school and in middle school. Make that make sense.
I've been observing this college thing, man. And I think that's part of their model right now, in regards to really getting it on the front end with the freshmen that don't last. 'Cause it's like baked into the system. A lot of them aren't going to make it through first semester because they just can't. They're not supposed to be there for whatever reason. And I just think that's part of the hustle, man. I'm telling you, because the population drops dramatically from freshman year to sophomore year, but they still got paid. And you don't
Still
have
got
and
paid.
you don't have
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to provide the service because they don't stay the whole semester.
Yep.
It's very demeaning. Like, I was behind. I played college basketball. I was behind. I wasn't like behind like that, but I was behind, and I really had to work, and I was functional. So what if, what if you're not functional and don't have no work ethic? It's very rough to go into class where you don't know what's going on
Yeah.
at that level, and no one's there to help you. It's just you go to class, either know it or you don't, and go about your day. But I think that's part of the business model to really pad it up with I haven't like delved into it. That's also like my little theory, to pad up the books with those freshmen, because they're not supposed to be. Because a lot of these schools you could get into now with a D.
Yep.
And it's already distorted. You just said because they're graduating with an inflated grade. You said you saw 40. I've seen I think a 64% curve that was given out like in an email that said they were supposed to get it for math.
Wow.
They're curving crazy. I'm telling
Yeah.
you, it's crazy what they're doing.
64%. That means if you get a 10, you got a 74.
Right. It don't matter what
Right.
you do. You passing. You can get a
You
1
know?
in my class. If I'm curving 64%, you automatically pass. Like, what we talking about? That's
So,
crazy.
That creates an issue now when you go in a different environment. You have to do some work and you just don't know what it is. But you think now, like, in your mind, you got an 80 and you really got to,
It goes back to that falsehood, that false reality, right? The
Nah.
students are walking around with this delusional state of being that they're in, like, oh, I'm an A student. What does that even mean? What does it mean to be an A student? You cannot regurgitate anything from the class. What does that even mean? You don't even know what your class is about, but they're A student. They're this student, and I'm an honor roll student. What does that mean to be an honor roll student? They're giving out participation trophies in school right now, so we're all honor roll students. I'm the honor roll student. You get in my grade.
Relative. So relative. Yeah.
And the final part I want to talk about is obviously you guys on the battlefield, and it's the end of the year, so I know you're a little vexed at the situation. But so we keep that in context, right? It's the end of the year, so like we got a lot to say, right? But no, really, should we even be like criticizing the education system anymore, or should we just be focusing on what to do with these kids to help them excel? Because it just seemed like the thing is totally over. It is what it is, bro. You get what I'm saying? In regards to the structure of the system, and it runs very efficiently. I can't say it's over. It's running the way that it's supposed to run, but it's not beneficial to many of our people, right? So should we even waste energy in regards to any reformation within the system, or should the sole focus on be how do we assist our kids, either taking them out the system or assisting them while they're in the system?
It's a good one.
We still be looking for reformation?
I think that, let me start by saying this. I think that many kids need an alternative setting for education. You know what I'm saying? I think that we need to really start getting to the point to where like this, let's really, if we make this thing relevant to their life, then it changes the narrative. You know what I'm saying? Like if I can, I used to use cell phones a lot in the classroom, and so like now we have this no cell phone policy and things like that at my current school. But sometimes we have to utilize ways to meet them where they are. But I believe truly, like when you go in there as an educator, you know, you got to really, because it's such a struggle, you got to really remind yourself over and over again of the kids that brighten your day. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a young lady in my first period class. I already know she gonna be about hers every single day. And if I don't answer her question, and I don't know where this music in the background just came from. If I don't answer her question, she gonna like, Mr. Harris, hey, I asked you a question. Hey, hurry up. And I'm like, hold up, girl, I'm helping them. So I think that we really have to help kids get to the point to where we show them how to guide them into careers and things to where they can utilize this information. And then as parents, we got to just figure out what we want to teach our own children and how we want to have them be able to live within the system.
Hmm. I definitely think we could criticize the system, but at the same time, we need to fix the problem, right? We here to problem solve. We need all the noise we making, maybe do 20%, but the other 80% of the time, we need to be trying to fix this. Like we might not, the system is big. We, the people are the system, and we need to make a change, but that's very difficult when you don't have a buy-in from everyone that's a part of this system. So we definitely need to be coming up with solutions. Like I have homeschooled my daughter from second to eighth grade because I know she needs to be homeschooled because the education system wasn't going to work, right? So we need to figure it out. We definitely need to come together and get these additional resources up just to combat what's not happening in the buildings because they're not learning in the school buildings. So we got to have a way where they're learning after school to supplement everything that's going on. So we can criticize, but we also need to solve the problem. We got to get going with the solution and not staying stuck on the problem.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult either way. Like it's going to be difficult to change the education, the formal education system. It's going to be difficult to make independent moves and create like independent educational spaces and educational opportunities. But we got to, you got to choose your heart, you know. And I'd rather, yeah, it's a bigger upside if we start to go toward a more independent route. You know, start the more doing for self more. You know, whether it's like, you know, educating parents, you know, so they can get past some of their math anxiety that they might have had since they was in fifth grade, and now they 40 now with a fifth grade child. So now when the child comes home with the homework, they're like, I can't help you with that. Like they get triggered, you know, when the child comes home with the homework. You know what I'm saying? So like, you know, whether it's educating parents, so they can do that, and then when their child does go back to school, go back into the classroom the next day, then the child is more comfortable because they're like, yo, you know, my dad or my mom, they helped me with my homework last night. Because so many parents are like, you know, they might have already had math deficiencies, even doing math in terms of the way it was instructed, you know, 30 years ago. But now with like some of the different instructional methods that are being offered, like with Common Core and whatnot, now it's like it compounds the problem for them, you know. So, you know, I'd rather, you know, us do that, like, you know, because like you said, like the educational system works very efficiently. Like I'm very clear to say that when I say that, like, it's not broken, it works very efficiently, very effectively, because it's not a new thing. Like the way it functions now and what type of people it produces often, it's not a new thing. Like in the 19, like sometimes in the media they try to make it seem like, you know, for sensationalistic journalism, oh, you know, the world is crashing in. Look at the schools now. But I mean, it was like that in the 70s. It was like that in the 60s, 1950s. It was, people was dropping out. It was gangs, you know, all types of stuff. So this is a consistent thing, but that lets you know, like, somebody is benefiting from this, because if it was really a problem, it would have been fixed. Like there's so much money that's available, so many resources that are available. If those that were in control really wanted this to change, they would have changed it. They would have fixed it. You know, I tend to think that, as a Black community, the only time inner city schools will really change is once there's a mass exodus of Black people out of the schools. But by that point, it won't matter because we will have already left, and hopefully we left. And but that would require that there be some other independent schools that we
You gotta
control.
build your own.
So then it's like they're not going to need to be changed, for our benefit at that point. But yeah, because I have such little faith in those that are in control at the top. I just think we got to do what we got to do, like, independently in our little silos where we can.
Farah, you had a question? You look like you got a question.
It's not even a question. It's more of a statement in the sense where I think, like, generally speaking, everybody complicates the whole situation outside of like the minds that think about the solution. So we mentioned the solution based. I feel like because we have a complaining culture and plus a complaining culture mixed with the concept of it. You said it earlier where I can't, I don't know how to. It's almost like that energy is projected, that fear is projected, that whole anxiety is kind of something that's transferred by just the way that the parents live, and it seems like it's just transferred over towards the students, and we need to be more cognizant of what's taking place there. And then we start that energy is everything. So you see a student come in the classroom, sometimes that energy is kind of down or it's kind of dwindling, and it affects the room. So parents need to think about the energy that they pulsate towards their children, and think about the actions done around them. Always be thoughtful of that.
The actions.
And
That's real talk.
and this question here is for Mr. Harris and Mrs. Watson, right? How do you maintain your mental health as a teacher? Because I know many people struggle with that through the 1,000 occupations you have to have, because you're a teacher, you're a psychologist, you're a parent, you're a counselor, you're a spiritual advisor, nutritionist, stylist, like everything. So like, how do you manage, or what advice would you give to other teachers? Because I still stay in touch with a lot of people that are in education, and some people are really struggling, especially this year for whatever reason. They said they're having a very rough time. So what are you guys doing to maintain and keep yourself going? If you could share with other teachers listening.
Well, for me at least, I'm a big time traveler, and I do believe in my mental health. So I believe in taking your breaks. When I taught online for 8 years, the kids had contact with me 24/7. But teaching online taught me that I had to make boundaries, and I take my breaks. If I have a lunch break, I tell the students, no, I can't do anything with you. I have to take a break. And I'm like, don't I deserve a break? Like, I taught periods 1 to 6. I think I deserve 45 minutes to myself. And they'll say, okay, Miss Watson, but try not to feel bad. It's going to be okay. And tomorrow's another day, but take your breaks. I go on vacation like no tomorrow, please. Like, it's really important. Take your breaks. Don't sacrifice that. And don't work at home. Try your best not to work at home.
Never.
Tomorrow's another day. The kids ain't even doing their homework. Tomorrow, you can pick it back up. Don't work at home. Leave work at work.
So I exercise even though it don't look like it. Sometimes I make sure I keep moving, man. That's one of the things that I do. What else? I find space really to just do nothing at times, because I realize, like, some people, they like, oh man, teachers got weekends off. They get off at 3, 4 o'clock. They got all this leisure. And it's like, wait, but you got to understand, mental fatigue is a whole different level of fatigue. There's some days that I think to myself, I'm like, yo, I'd rather be physically tired from going to do manual labor than this mental fatigue that I have. And so I encourage teachers also, this is one of the most important things to me. You got to know yourself. You got to know when to speak up for yourself. When you taking those breaks and things like that, you got to be willing to sit there in front of the principal or whoever else is going to criticize you and say, hey, Mr. Harris, why you ain't been coming to work? I come to work. I just take off when I need to. And you got to be able to, stand up for yourself in a professional manner. A lot
Mhm.
of teachers, I see them get taken advantage of and they get worn into the ground because they don't know how to speak up for themselves because of certain things that you just learn over time as a teacher. And so I'm looked at as like somebody that's kind of like against the grain, or I'm not a team player sometimes and things like that, because it's just like, nah, I stand up for myself. You know what I'm saying? And I always say this: what are they gonna do? Fire me? Okay, somebody else looking for a black man to teach math. So
That's facts.
you gotta know yourself, man. But find whatever it is that you can do to relax your mind at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, the kids are gonna be needy. And even when you love the kids, I love the kids, but I have my FTK moments all the time. You know what I'm saying? And I think that I always say the main ones that say FTK, those are the ones that care about them the most.
No, it's facts. And I was laughing. That man said he'd rather do manual labor than that was a good one. All right, we
Yo, I
have.
know. I realize when I got mental fatigue, when I can't do mental math sometimes. I be like if I can't do like, I don't know, 389 minus 114 or something like that, and I'll be like, wait, how do I do that again? Like, because I know how to do it. I know how to do it, but then I'll be like,
Tired.
yeah, I'm tired, man. I can't. I don't know, because all the tricks and the place value games, I'm like, it escapes me. That's how, man. I gotta chill. I gotta chill.
Mhm.
That's my signal right there.
Hey, can someone also? We give thanks for everyone tuning in. Please put a question in the chat if you have for the guests. But here's one: is and I'd like to see what everyone has to say on this. Is homeschool a valuable solution for most families? Say I don't believe so. What are your thoughts about that?
Maybe not for most families, because people gotta go to work. You know. But I mean, they're communities. They're like,
Right.
if you can get
The
into a
group on that
collective,
level. That's what we need.
yeah, the
Right.
collective, maybe I'll rotate households. It's got to be real organized. But
That
see, this is the thing. This is the thing. Like, I think that a lot of our people think homeschooling is beyond their reach. But what I would say is that the same amount of attention and organization that's required for Thanksgiving dinner, prom send-offs, the holiday barbecues, the baby showers. I mean, these things be elaborate. It's really on that level. It's really
hmm
on that level. So if we just gave people the confidence, but I think a lot of it is the marketing of school. Like, people
Yeah.
just think, well, I'm not a teacher, not a principal. I didn't go to school for that, so I could never do what they doing inside that building.
Facts.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? But it's like we're teachers, and we've known people that couldn't teach their way out of a wet paper bag, right? And we knew some principals that, you know what I'm saying, like, don't know what they're doing neither. So like, there are parents that really could bring that type of organization.
Right.
Really, it's organizing, it's project management. What you doing if you're running a household. You're doing that, a lot of that already anyway.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a mindset of thinking that you can't do that.
Yeah. And homeschooling as a community is what we should push for anyway. That's literally how we're going to build our own schools, right? If I'm a certified math educator, I'm the expert at it. If I'm teaching 10, 20, 30 people kids, now you're building your own educational, build system, right? So homeschooling them is a viable thing. It's just we have to build the community to do it. We need more of a buy-in. We have to have parents willing to be like, all right, I'll pull my kid out, and the five of you, you're an expert in English, you're the math expert, y'all could be this group of kids. And then we need the spaces to do it in. Because if we're
Yeah,
gonna homeschool as a community, you still want to have that face-to-face interaction, because you don't want it to all be virtual all the time. But we need the spaces, and we need the community buy-in and the community build up. And we can make it happen. We really can.
yeah,
That's real talk. I like both of those points. I think that that's also going to create this sense of community again. That's also going to create this sense of getting kids to step outside of their comfort zone and to communicate with other kids face to face. You know what I'm saying? So if I got this group of 5 to 10 kids, maybe it might be easier for me. I may not, kid may not feel as much anxiety and things like that, an embarrassment for being wrong when they're in front of a smaller group of kids. So then now, like, we're in this smaller group, and even if I do make some mistakes or something like that, I made a mistake, and then Akil's like, "Oh, dang, you forgot the negative right there," and Shu's like, "Okay, so now." What's the like we're guiding each other through. That's how I got through my degree in mathematics. Like I remember they used to put somebody at the board, but you were able to reach to your peers for help to get you through the problem.
Mm-hmm. We need it.
Facts. No, strictly facts.
Yeah, we need it.
This reason is one for the history books for you. You know, this reason is like a breath of fresh air. I feel like it's a guide. It's a type of guide to like it's not just a criticism type of conversation. It's more like a building conversation. Because kudos to all of you too. You know, like I don't think a lot of people reference you as revolutionaries, but in my eyes, I see you as revolutionaries based on the work that needs to be done. Because most people think about revolutionaries having a gun or fighting that physical battle, not understanding the mentality that it takes to really teach and set the tone for that foundation of how doing mathematics mathematics is everything. If you have a piece of land, you have to survey that land. It's mathematics. Building, adding those blocks, that's number, that's sun, all of these different things. So people need to see how realistic this is towards the development of not just the system, but towards your internal structure, which is also mathematics too. So connecting the dots and kind of laying the foundation for everyone to really see, you know.
Thanks.
I used to have the Mozambique flag up in my classroom. That was my favorite flag. You know what I'm saying? Because it's got the book is it's like a triangle. The book is the foundation, but then it's got the hoe, which represents the farming and the land. But then the other leg of the triangle is the AK-47. But the book was the base though. The book was the foundation. It lets you know, like, because I mean, you get somebody a gun with no education, they end up shooting themselves.
Thomas Sankara said that too.
Yeah.
Before we leave, can everyone, we'll start with Akil, Shura, then Dana. Can everyone just explain where people can reach you at and the services you provide?
Yeah, so Akil Parker, All This Math. You can reach me on all the socials at All This Math, and definitely lock into the YouTube channel at All This Math. Yeah, we provide private virtual tutoring, and like I mentioned, the YouTube channel. And also we're doing, like, if you have a group of parents that you're able to organize for some parent workshops, I'm doing that too, you know, to try to show parents, you know, how to be more comfortable with, you know, with math today, and so that they can help their own children with their math homework. So that's another thing that we starting to, you know, roll out. You know what I mean? So yeah, All This Math on the socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter or X, whichever it's called. I don't really be on X like that, but Facebook and the YouTube channel, All This Math on YouTube. Subscribe, tell everybody, tell a friend to tell a friend. And yeah, I got a book too. Can I talk about the book real quick? Yeah, the book, How to Use All This Math, Volume 1. You know, it's a guide for parents showing how, like, you can make teachable moments out of just regular everyday activities. You know, anything that, you know, you're already doing, a lot of stuff you're already doing in the house with your kids anyway, to prepare them for math class. You know, because we don't usually think about how to prepare our children for math class. We just kind of send them, but they actually need to be prepared. They need some prerequisite skills. So that's what the book is for. I'm showing people how to do that. You know, but yeah, hit me up.
Nice. And you can reach me at Shura Watson, my first and last name, on the socials, IG, DM, whatever. I tutor high school and college level mathematics. I help teachers decorate in classrooms, help them with lesson planning. I can help parents in the same regards as Akil. And then I also have a book. It's called Algebra the Right Way. I'm created during the pandemic to help bridge the gap for some of the information the kids would be missing when that pandemic happened. So it has a script, it has an answer key. It's really there for homeschool parents teachers, anyone who wants to help students, because there's a script. I tell you exactly what to say to them. I give you the answers. I tell you some responses that you may receive, and it really guides you through it. And you can check that out on my website, mathstherightway.org. And you can also come to my IG page and see all that information there as well at Shura Watson.
So for me, the first thing I realized is I need to keep working on this book that I'm working on. So I appreciate y'all.
Yes.
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Young Gurus Math Tutoring on all 3 platforms. I do virtual tutoring for students in grades 6 through 12. My sweet spot is 6 through 9, but I could teach it all. So that's where you can find me at, and like start connecting the dots as a parent, like figuring out what you need for your students. I definitely do give pre-assessments as a part of my program, but I think the big part of my program is, and I think that they would agree with me. As a parent, you got to know whether you want your student to get better on paper, like as far as like standardized testing and things like that, or whether you want to help your child just increase their, their math, their number sense and things like that. And so there's a group of parents who looking for homework help to kind of just like put the Band-Aid over the bleeding, so that their kid can just survive through these next few years of school. But then there's a group of parents who are looking for help getting their child caught back up to grade level. And so definitely reach out to all of us. And we got solutions to your math problem.
That's facts.
All right.
I'm gonna say something else too. Like when I came across Dana's channel, like this was like before I started my channel, he like inspired me. I seen him. I was like, oh, so brother with a YouTube channel teaching math.
Appreciate it, brother.
Nice.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's like,
Appreciate it.
Because I had the idea, but I hadn't like brought it into fruition. But I was like,
that's love.
That inspired me. And your joint look real polished too. Like you had like the little captions, and you know what I mean. Like your like your image was like perfect. Like the dry erase board was like perfectly in the camera.
That's the only reason why everybody think I'm tall, dog. Because I always put the camera centered around the board, not around me.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off the love, I use Akil's videos in my class as additional resources and as main resources for them to use for homework and things of that nature as well. So I want to keep promoting Black mathematicians. I need the students to see that we exist and that they can do it too. So I'm just gonna show love.
Yeah, and, appreciate that. Definitely appreciate that.
And serious thing, and we give thanks for all the work that you've done and all the work that you will do. We give thanks for coming here and sharing so much wisdom. I think those who watch it will really benefit. Hopefully, inspire people to look at
powerful
and kind of move differently in their household and with their children.
Yeah.
So we give thanks same way. Far Right, big up yourself. Far Right in Jam Rock.
The vibes are them vibes we live for. We live for vibes as simple as it seems. It might seem so simple and minute, but
it's big.
Means a lot.
It does.
And we give thanks for everyone tuning into the live same way,
Yeah, thank you guys for opening the
Thank you all for the
opportunity.
Yeah.
We need this. We need more of this. The more people who are informed on the education and what's really happening, the chances that we make a bigger change will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.